My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm an associate real estate broker in the state of Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching in real estate. And today we're going to be talking about what's going on in the MatSu Valley real estate market update. So there's a lot of discussion looking at the national level. People are saying, oh, the whole market's about to collapse and this is the end of the world. And what I would say to that is, you have to understand what you see at the national level is the average. Keep in mind, the average temperature for the entire United States might, on any given day, the average might be, let's just say, like 65. That means absolutely nothing when it comes to what's going on in your particular area and how the weather is going to behave. And that's really the same thing with real estate. So we're going to be taking a deep dive into the numbers to see what's actually happening in the market here in the MatSu Valley. Before we get started, though, do make sure to give this video a like, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and let's go ahead and jump into it. The first thing we're going to look at is what's going on, and as far as the residential side, as far as the active inventory. So if you are a buyer, I'm sure you're happier than you were last year because we've actually seen an increase of the active inventory. And this is really about the only market we've started to see kind of a sizable increase in the active inventory. It went from about 220 the year before to about 280 this year. So, kind of a nice, healthy increase. Before we get too excited, though, let's also look at the fact that this time last year, 2018, 2019, there was about 660 properties that were available on the market. So despite the fact we are seeing an increase, still nowhere near to where we were pre-pandemic. The next thing we see is that the number of homes that have actually closed went from about 174 the year before for the month of March to about 135 this year. So you're seeing an increase in the active inventory and you're seeing a decrease in the number of properties that are actually selling. Yeah, that's not particularly surprising. Interest rates go up and you're going to see kind of a pulling back of the demand, but the supply still remains so low. It's going to take a while to actually make a big dent in it. But let's take a look and see what's going on in the average sold price to see if we can start feeling the impacts of those variables there. Now, what we're going to see for the average sold price is it went from about $383,000 to about $374,000 year to date. Now, this sounds really scary for those of you who are paying attention really to this part of the market update because it looks like the average sold price is taking a sizable little dip there. That's about a 2.17% decrease, which is the first time we've seen that. Really in recorded history here, we've gotten pretty close to going negative in 2019, but yeah, we obviously haven't had that in the past couple of years, but let's take a step back and see what it looks like once we look at the data where we're looking at the average sold price once we have all the completed data for that entire month. Because keep in mind, year to date is just that. It's year to date, and it's going to be the date that we pulled the data, and we want to look at the data where we can see all of the completed information where we have coming in for the entire month, because we have a lot of properties that are going to sell right at the beginning or right at the end of the month, and just doing year to date, we kind of miss a lot of that, and it's not really complete. So what we see is the average sold price for the month of January went from about $364,000 in 2022. It increased to about $382,000. For the month of February, it went from about $366,000 for 2022, and it increased to $375,000 for the month of February. Now, for the month of March in 2022, it went from about $355,000 and increased about $370,000 for the month of March, and that's when we have the most complete data for the month. So really what that tells me is we're continuing to see an increase for the average sold price here in the MatSu Valley. Probably a big indicator of that is going to be all the newer construction, but also real estate just as an asset class is continuing to appreciate very well, just because this is a time of inflation and, it's housing also, of course, it's going to appreciate. Next, we're going to check out and see what's going on in the condo market in the MatSu Valley. So condos, I've said this multiple times before, are really not the reason most people get excited about moving to Alaska and specifically the MatSu Valley. They're really not the hot commodity right at the moment. I think that could change, but right at the moment, it's not the hot commodity. But we see that this time last year for active inventory, it went from 4 condos on the market, and then it increased to 7 this year. So if you're looking at getting into condos in the MatSu Valley, this might be your big opportunity. Now, the number of condos that sold this time last year for the month of March went from 3, and now it increased to 5. So you can see the supply went up. Still pretty good demand for those condos, so they're continuing to sell pretty well. But keep in mind, super small sample size, and it's hard to extrapolate a whole lot. Now, looking at the average sold price for condos in the MatSu Valley, we're not seeing... Okay, so what we're seeing is the impacts of having a super small sample size. Because the average price year to date, and there's a difference between year to date and for the entire completed month, I'll explain that in a second, but the year to date, we see that it went from about $264,000 to about $227,000 year to date. Now, there's a difference between year to date and the completed month. We see a lot of properties are going to be selling right at the beginning of the month or right at the end of the month. And unless we look at all the completed data for the entire month, we can really kind of shortchange ourselves just by looking at that. Just looking at year to date, because it doesn't really take those properties into consideration very well. Now, looking at the completed months, we see that in January, the prices for condos went from $210 to $240. In February, they went from about $227 to about $320. For the month of March, we do see that it did have a decrease going from about $220 down to about $205, $206. So the main point is we're seeing those prices just kind of go all over the place. And if you really want to get a good sense of the condo market, you have to look at specific condos and get a better sense of just in the market as well. It's really hard to make a whole lot of generalizations. I can say condos are probably going to become more popular because people are looking for more and more affordable housing options, and condos, when they don't have a ton of competition, are going to look a lot more appealing. Let's go and take a break real quick. We actually are going to be, well, not we. When I say we, I mean my brokerage with Keller Williams. We're actually going to be hosting a auction for local charity, a local organization called Priceless. And the mission of this charity is they do mentor, they train survivors of human trafficking, and they prepare them to go out and live independent lives and live fulfilled lives after they've gone through all this training. And we were actually, as a company, trying to raise $150,000 at an auction and some other events that we're going to be putting on. The event is going to be on May 11th, and if you'd like to donate towards this anti-human trafficking organization, do feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to put you in contact and give you a quick, easy way to donate if that's something you would like to do. Now, let's go and finish today's market update looking at what's going on in the multifamily sector. Now, looking at the multifamily market, we're seeing that this time last year in March, there was 16 properties available on the market, and now we're seeing there's 28. So sizable increase proportionally for the total number of properties that are available. And let's see what that's done to the average sold price and the number of units that have actually sold. The number of units sold actually took a little bit of a decrease for the month of March because it went from 10 the year before and it went down to 8. Not a huge difference one way or the other. Proportionally, though, that still is a decrease. Now, the next thing we see is that the average sold price year to date in the MatSu Valley for multifamily, it shot up from about $494,000 this time of year to date, to about $583,000 for this year. So nearly a $90,000 increase for the average sold price for multifamily properties over in the MatSu Valley. Now, this is it's kind of difficult to do any kind of average sold price for multifamily properties because it includes everything from the duplex all the way up to like the ginormous multifamily complex where it's more of a commercial deal. But what we do see is that the average sold price is significantly going up compared to the year before, even when we look at all the completed monthly data, because it went from about $414,000 for the month of January 2022, and in 2023, it was about $550,000. For the month of February, we see that it went from about $424,000 to about $612,000, and for the month of March, it went from about $498,000 to just under $600,000. So across the board in the MatSu Valley, we are seeing an increase for the value for multifamily properties. Really what that is, the value of these properties go up when rents go up, and this is a time of inflation, the rents are going to go up. That's really what we're seeing there. If you are a landlord, you're wanting to sell, this could be a good opportunity for you to sell that property if you've wanted to for a while, or you can hang on to it and get those higher rents. The thing you have to remember is if you do want to sell it at the higher amount, though, you need to make sure those rents are up, because the property is going to be judged on how it performs, and it's going to be judged, how you decide that is going to be how the rents are. If you've kept your rents like $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 under market value, it's going to come back to bite you when you go to sell it. So this has been your market update for the MatSu Valley. Kind of the takeaways for you as a seller is it's still a solid market, not quite as nice as it was the past couple of years, but as long as you make sure you're priced correctly, like we're not reaching too much, and it's staged the way it needs to be, the marketing is on point, there's a good chance it's going to sell, and it's probably going to sell for over asking price if we do everything correctly. For buyers, I know it looks scary right now. Interest rates are going up. You're seeing these average sold prices going up, and it's not a good feeling. Best thing I can say is get something under contract and get into something as quickly as you can. I'm not really expecting to see interest rates improve anytime soon. If you're waiting for interest rates to come back down to what they were in 2020 with like 2.2 or 2.5, 3% interest rates, those aren't normal. And I kind of doubt we're ever going to see those again in our lifetime. If you're waiting for that, you're going to be waiting for a long time. And the best thing you can do is get something under contract and enjoy that appreciation as it goes up. If the interest rates do come down, then you can refinance. Now, to my colleagues who are in the real estate industry, you see the total number of properties actually selling going down. The best advice I can give right at this moment is cut expenses like crazy. Make sure you're running a solid business, and make sure you're actually running a business. I see a lot of folks that are just going out and spending everything that they bring into their business like it's one big piggy bank, and you have to actually run a business and have a lot of reserves, because we're going to be taking a bit of a pay cut this upcoming year just because you see the number of properties actually selling going down dramatically. So I sure hope this has been useful. Give this video a like, and we'll see you next time.